Well, I open with we've got a dinged up football team, obviously, and got some injuries in some tough positions. But our kids are fighters, and I know they'll handle that the right way. With Missouri, I think Eli's done an incredible job taking over and really kind of locked in and gotten the ability to throw eye candy and move people around. And defensively, they play really heavy fronts. Historically, when we played Missouri, they're hard to run the ball against. So they do a really good job of mixing things up. He's taken his offense, and you can see the elements from App State where they have a ton of shifts and motions. And Lord knows after last game, that's something that we've got to improve on. And they do it really well. Like they really confuse people in how they play the game. And his quarterback, Connor Bazelak's doing a really good job. So it'll be important that we clean up the mistakes we made from the last game or to not make those. And also that we're able to play better on special teams and help our offense with our special teams and our field position will be big for us.
All right, we'll go to questions. Let's take the first two. Let's start Jake Rowe, and then we'll go to Chip Towers.
Hey, Kirby. Obviously the passing game not quite clicking like you want it to right now. What can you guys do in the interim to improve that as much as possible? Is it just a practice thing, or is there some ways you guys can maybe support the quarterbacks and the receivers and get them more opportunities?
Well, I think the number one thing I would say is accuracy. I can't say that it's to protect the quarterback better. It's accuracy in terms of completion percentage, hitting open receivers. We always say you got to make your layups, and that's the most disappointing thing about the last couple of games. Really, it's just the accuracy, the ability to hit the open guys, and then defensively not giving gifts away. So how do you improve that? You got to improve your accuracy. You got to improve, number one, when the guy gets a chance to catch a ball, catch it. But when we got him open, we can't overthrow him, which we missed out on some opportunities there. And a lot of that can be helped, too, with a good run game, which we've shown the ability at times to run the ball on some hard boxes. And Missouri's, they give you a hard box almost every snap. So it's one of those challenges that we've got to try to improve on.
Coach, I guess the first thing to ask on the quarterback competition is we know your latest starter has an AC joint sprain. Do you know yet whether he's going to be good to go this week, and then how the competition may be considered after that?
Yeah, he's day-to-day, right shoulder AC sprain, like you mentioned. So we don't know. He's going to be day-to-day. We don't even know today. He's got to find out today if he's going to be able to go out there and throw. So it's one of those deals that we don't know how effective he's going to be, whether he's going to require another shot to do it. And we're going to get all three of those guys ready. And the one that does the best job will be ready to play. And if Stetson's ready to play and he does the best job. Toughest thing for Stetson is he's not going to be able to take a lot of reps early in the week. But we do a ton of walkthrough today, and a lot will be determined by Tuesday and Wednesday's practice for us.
And when you say three guys, you mean JT, D'Wan, and Stet?
Well, no, Stetson wouldn't be doing much today. I'm talking about JT, D'Wan, and Carson are the three guys that will be repping today with Stetson not able to throw today.
I got you. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Dean Legge and then Mike Griffith.
Sorry for all the injury questions, Kirby, but as you said, y'all are banged up. Where are y'all at with George? Where are y'all at with I don't even know everybody else. Kenny, Jordan, etc.
Kendall, Marcus, Lewis.
Well, I didn't want to take up all the time, but yeah.
And the only reason I don't go through all of them is that there's a lot of them. So if you want to ask specifically, I will say Marcus Roseney had a fractured dislocation ankle, dislocated ankle, and they repaired that this morning with surgery. He's out the remainder of the season. They expect a full recovery, similar to what James Cook had at one time, Riley Ridley had it at one time. Both those guys recovered fully. He's been in great spirits. What a great kid and a great family. But he had his surgery done today. Trying to think who else. Kenny, we're hopeful to get back. Kenny actually made the trip last week because we felt like at the end of the week he had 80, 85, 90% of his full self. His hamstrings bother him more than his knee now, and he's had some hamstring tightness. But we feel like he's going to be able to go. He probably could have gone in an emergency Saturday, But he wasn't completely comfortable with it. So we're hopeful to get him back this week. We certainly need him. Kendall's going to be out with, probably 3 or 4 weeks with an MCL sprain from the injury he got in the game. It's nothing permanent, but it's something that we got to get him back from. So with George, it boils down to really a pain tolerance. He was able to practice last week, some days without a no contact jersey. But again, it boils down to can he handle and deal with the pain of the upper extremity. And if he's able to do that, then he would be able to go. We're hopeful that he will be. Lewis Seen is in concussion protocol. So we don't know if he's going to be cleared for the week. That'll depend on the testing he has to go through in terms of the concussion stuff. And I can't think of anybody else. The guys from last
Jordan
week.
Davis. Sorry, Jordan Davis.
Yeah, Jordan's probably going to be week to week. It's one of those deals that we're hopefully getting back, but we just don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah, Kirby. I know you said Saturday night that the sky isn't falling, but you guys have built a streak up. I think it was up to 58 weeks in the top 10. How do you reset with your players in the locker room? Obvious challenges when your team wouldn't seem to be playing for a championship anymore. I guess anything can happen. So I guess I would ask, how do you address the team mood and the team buy-in this week?
Oh, your competitor. I mean, that's if you have a competitive nature about you, which most good football players do. It's about the program. It's about the seniors. It's about leaving your legacy. It's about the number of wins your senior class can have. It's about the bowl opportunities you have. It's about us. And, I really thought that our kids, I'm telling you, I had a lot of people reach out to me, but I also felt there was a lot of fight in our kids Saturday for as many things that went wrong, and we missed tons of opportunities. Those opportunities are gone. Our next opportunity is with Missouri. And I personally think they've got a really good football team that's getting better. When you watch them play throughout the year, they've gotten better with each game. And look, Eli's one of the best coaches around when he takes what he did at App State and what he's been able to do there at Missouri. So that's all of our attention goes to that. And, our kids will handle it the right way. They handled it the right way after the game Saturday night. And, we got to see some of the leaders and visit with some of those guys yesterday as they stopped by. They're hurt, but they understand that this is the situation we're in, and we got to go play well.
Did Scene hit? Was there anything Lewis could have done different at that angle? It looked on replay like he lowered his shoulder. Do you have an answer for those kind of targeting calls? Is he supposed to fall down and not make the hit, or what does he do there?
Tough deal, because he felt like he was going, what we talk about is always go for the target area, from the chest to the waist is the target area. And he had a couple of hits early in the year. If you go back and look, I can't remember what game it was, but he had the exact same kind of hit, and he went for that target area. And he is, we see him every day in practice. We see him in scrimmages. He's a vicious hitter, striker, and I don't want to say a targeter because we've had drills with him where we've told him he's got to go full speed and he's got to run through the midsection of a bag that's like a body. And he was trying to do that in that case. And I think he felt like Kyle saw him coming, and Kyle dropped his head, to protect himself. And it ended up being head-to-head contact. And it's unfortunate. That's part of our game. And the only thing we can coach Lewis to do is, maybe aim a little lower, because the lower you go, the less chance you got of hitting somebody head-to-head. It was certainly a scary collision.
Let's go to Anthony Dasher and then Mark Weiser.
Hey, Coach. With no Richard last week, who in the secondary kind of took over responsibilities of calling the plays back there, and how did that part of it go for you?
Well, Richard doesn't make all those calls. The way defenses work, you have a linebacker that makes a call, and then you have secondary sides. You have a free safety side and a strong safety side. So Richard handles the strong side, which is usually the field side, and Lewis handles the free safety side, which is usually the weak side or the boundary side. So that side stayed kind of intact when you're talking about the linebackers with Lewis. The other side, Chris's side, was him and the strong side linebackers. So I thought Chris Smith handles the communication really well. He's very bright. He communicates in a lot of ways just as good as Richard in terms of communication. But our breakdowns had a lot more to do with between linebackers and coverage, communication of the free safety and the corners into the boundary, and some really bad eye control. And when I call eye control is, are you looking at the right thing? has nothing to do with the scheme they did. It just has to do with if I'm looking at what I'm supposed to look at, then I'll cover him. And if I look in the backfield, then I won't cover him. He'll pop out of the ground 25 yards downfield. And we had some bad eye control, not communication.
And when it comes to improving the eye control, issues, that's something y'all correct on film, or that's something y'all do on the field to try to get better at?
All of the above. I mean, it's funny because the off week, we had a list of goals for the defense, and the number one was communication going into the off week, how we communicate in coverages and adjustments. And then number two was eye control. So we really tried to harp on those things and make guys accountable for communicating, but obviously hadn't done a good enough job of it.
Thank you.
Kirby, what do you see as the issues with Stetson and the deep balls? It seems like he has too much on it a lot of times. And given his day-to-day status, how does that complicate getting better at that position?
Well, I don't have it complicates him getting better at the position because I don't know how much work he gets. You know what I mean? If he's able to go, he'll get some reps. If he's not able to throw, then his reps will be cut down on. But accuracy comes with experience. Accuracy comes with timing. Accuracy comes with consistency in who's out there. If it's one receiver, he might be running 21 miles an hour, and another receiver might be running 22. But you got to hit your layups. You got to be accurate. That's probably the number one when you define the quarterback position. Accuracy ranks right up there with managing it, not turning it over. But accuracy is probably the defining factor of that position, and we haven't been very accurate in terms of completion percentage. At least not consistently. We've been there in spurts, but we weren't Saturday.
And did you and Todd talk at all about, I know what you said about JT Daniels after the game the other day. Do you give him more of a look, with reps this week, or what's the plan?
Yeah, he's going to get reps. He's going to get work because, again, we just talked about Stetson. I don't know if he's going to be there or not, So he's gotten – but the great thing about JT is he begged to go down to the scout team to get work when he wasn't early on. He wanted to go down and compete and throw and get better against our defense. So it's not like he's been sitting on the shelf not getting many throws. He's been getting a lot of those.
Thanks.
Hey, let's go to Seth Emerson, and then we'll go to Macon Telegraph, either Brandon or Jed, whichever one. Seth?
Yeah, Kirby, I know receivers were getting open Saturday, and you talked about the accuracy part of it, but at receiver in general, how is the attrition and injuries over the last year or two had an effect? And do you feel like you have the speed on the outside that you want at receiver?
It went out a little bit there, Seth. You said over the last years or this season we're talking about attrition?
This season, last year, the injuries, attrition at receiver, and do you feel like that's had an effect, and do you have the speed you want at receiver?
Never would I say you have the speed you want. I don't think any coach – everybody wants to be faster. Everybody wants to have the fastest guys possible. But I do feel like we have gotten open more this year, whether that's by alignment, assignment, level of competition. I don't know. We've gotten open. We've missed some and we've hit some. But I think we've improved in the passing game. We just haven't reaped the benefits of it because we're not accurate enough. We don't hit enough open guys. But the toughest thing for me is the swinging gate of injuries. This guy's in, this guy's out. I mean, Kieris has been a warrior because he's been banged up. Kieris took a hip pointer in one of the games early in the year, and he's been able to consistently go out there and really give us good effort. But George has been out some. Now Marcus is out. Matt's been out. I mean, there's been a lot of different things there in terms of those guys being able to have the continuity that you'd like to have, especially in a new offense.
Hey, Kirby. So I guess the question I have is more of a clarification of what I asked you Saturday night. But so when I say the disappointments or the frustrations that you spoke of earlier on, I meant just in terms of the injuries and it coming down to so many close things, uncontrollable things. How have you kind of honed in on that with your team, with so many things being out of your control, I suppose, like with injuries? And then also the second question with Marcus, can you kind of speak to his kind of approach and everything through the injury? Because he was on the sideline in the second half the other night, so I just thought that was interesting.
In terms of his approach to the injury, the kid is a great kid. I saw him coming out to the second half. We were coming out of the locker room for the second half, and he was already in great spirits. And he said, coach, it's part of the game. It's injuries, part of the game. You understand that when you get into it. And he was in a really good mindset, if that's what you mean. As far as I know, he'll work really hard to get back, and he was trying to help other guys on the sideline. Look, that's the thing about this team's DNA is there's a bunch of fighters, there's a bunch of competitors. They don't feel good about what happened. Nobody does, but they're ready to fight and come back and compete, and that's what defines who you are. And about the earlier question, I don't even remember the question the other night, but for me, I don't hone in on the adversities and the problems, the issues. We've been fortunate, knock on wood, in terms of COVID, and we have been unfortunate in terms of injuries, and they seem to happen in bunches, and hey, we've had quite a bit. I certainly didn't think coming out of the Kentucky game that we would have some of these that we had in the Florida game, but that you don't control that, you don't focus on it. You get next man up and you try to prepare those guys to get ready to play.
All right, let's go to Charles Odom, and then we'll go to red and black, either Augusta or Austin, whichever.
Going back to you've consistently said you're gonna play the guy that plays the best at quarterback, and going back to the start of the season, that your first choice was D'Wan. Can you say after the film review what you learned about him on Saturday, and what have you asked him to where has he needed to improve the most since he opened the season as a starter?
The number one thing would be starting with the accuracy. He's got to improve that. Number two thing is the management of the offense in terms of play call, communication, motion shift, snap count, a lot of things in that nature, which he has improved on. He's gotten an opportunity to work with the twos for 3 or 4 weeks and grown and gotten better at. And he got an opportunity the other night in the game to see where he is. And I think he understands that he has to improve and work, and he's willing to do that. He's committed to trying to get better to help the team. He's an extremely passionate competitor. You see it when he runs, right? I mean, he tries to run guys over whether he can or he can't. And that part is a great redeeming quality about it. But he has to grow up in other areas, and he's got to improve. And he wants to do that. He wants to become a complete player.
Can you just, reflecting on that accuracy theme again, what have you seen from that scout team work from JT in that department?
Well, JT, down the scout team is like Stetson when he was down there before. Sometimes you get to do things without risk rewards because your job down there is to get the ball in the air, throw the ball, service the team, give a good look. And he's not down there all the time. We have Priestley and Jackson Muschamp who do a good job as well. JT likes to go down there and compete and get to throw some, so he spends time with our offense. He's in all the meetings with our offense, and he goes down there and throws every now and then. But JT's got a good arm. There's no doubt about that. And it's one of those deals he's getting better and better every day with mobility, and you feel good that he's able to move around and do some things down there with us. And again, he's going to get some reps with Stetson out and find out where it is.
Hey, Kirby, you've been asked a couple questions about kind of like where you think Stetson needs to improve moving forward. But now that, y'all are 6 games into this season, where have you kind of seen his progression so far this year at this point?
Well, experience is the best indicator, and we have such a small sample size on all these guys. It's really tough because you don't have the spring sample size, you don't have summer sample size, you've got fall camp and the games we have. So his sample size of game time is larger than the other guys, and there's been progress made in terms of third down decision making. He's made some good decisions. Look, he stood in the pocket the other day on the third down and took a shot. I mean, he took a BB and knew it was coming, and that's what you want your quarterback to be able to do. And he fired an accurate throw, and from that point on, his accuracy started to go down a little bit. And I don't know if that was because he was inaccurate or if it was because of the injury. You got to feel like it had something to do with the injury, but he wasn't as accurate or as effective after that. So that part he's got to continue to work on.
Let's go to Jeff Schultz and then Mark Bradley, if either of you have a question.
Yeah, Kirby, circling back to something you referenced earlier about mindset coming off a loss, what's the biggest thing you've learned as a coach in terms of getting players refocused on the rest of the season after a setback? And do you generally have a pretty good idea during the week how they're going to respond?
I would say after Tuesday or Wednesday, I would have a better idea. I can't sit here and say I know today because you haven't got to see them face to face and eye to eye with all of them. But one of the best things I've learned is that they feel as bad as you do. You know, it's they tend to get over it quicker than you do. Meaning they're short term in everything they do. Meaning they jump on social media and they hear so many things outside our walls that can influence behaviors and decisions and maybe feelings. And we try in here to live in a bubble of, hey, look, let all that stay out there. Only thing you can worry about is when you come in here, go to work, have a good attitude, and approach it that way. And I think a lot of that comes from the leadership and the coaches. And so I've stressed to our support staff and our coaches that look, you've got to provide energy and enthusiasm to the players so they feel that coming from you and you're not hang-dogging. So, call it reverse psychology, whatever you want to call it. A lot of times after our wins are where we have the biggest corrections. And after our losses, we have to be able to emphasize what we did well, but be really technical about what we did wrong so they see it.
It's almost a reverse psychology kind of thing, it seems like.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. I think you have to be that way in terms because outside of it, they get a lot of negative energy from outside of it in terms of what we can't do and what we haven't done. And you got to be honest. You got to look at the tape and just show it to them. Say, hey, this guy's open. You know what I mean? Like it's not that he's not open. The play worked. We've got to complete the play. We've got to finish the block. So,
Mark Bradley, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Kirby, if Stetson Bennett is healthy, will he start against Missouri?
It's a great question. Great question. Only to be answered by the end of the week. Great question, Mark.
Thank you.
We got time for one more question. Zach Klein, do you have a question? Guess not. All right, last question.
Yeah, actually, sorry, I was just kidding that, Claude.
Okay,
hey, Kirby, have you talked to Ron at all about these injuries? How much does he think they really are football, obviously, related, and how much maybe due to the awkwardness of the offseason, not having your guys under his control, et cetera?
Yeah, I wondered that myself. You start questioning, oh, wow, they have the injuries. Everybody wants to point at either the trainer or the strength coach or whatever, but so many of them are freaky deals. I mean, you see them too, like Kendall Milton's. You see his plant. You see him take a knee from the side. That's an MCL. Like, what does that have to do with whether he lifted or ran? I mean, it's there. Marcus is the guy trying to keep him from scoring. Clips you right on the ankle down there. I mean, it's like, what does that have to do with the exercise and the running? It's football is what it is. And the accumulation of those, I don't know. I would say that if there were more soft tissue injuries, I would question that. We had a ton of hamstrings and pulls, but a lot of ours aren't those. They're breaks, and that's tough. That's part of the game.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Coach. And stand by for players.